Hello, Contrarians fans. Here we are once again to give you a little preview to get you ready for our latest episode. And that episode is about the movie The Bone Collector. The movie, not the TV show, not the book. We're talking about the late 90s Denzel Washington, Angelina Jolie vehicle, thriller. And
The Seven clone, as was the style at the time.
yes, one of the many. Just as we were discussing right before we started recording, they can't all be seven, and that's not something that you should hold against a movie. You should, in fact, celebrate the fact that they tried. How many people watched Seven and they said, "Okay, I'm out. I can't do it." At least Philip Noyce and his team they did what they could. So we have, as usual, some Rotten Tomatoes quotes. They're rotten because this movie's rotten. It's 28%, right?
28% on the old RT.
And then we're gonna have some trivia, and of course, we have to figure out where Josh Gad fits in this thriller that is about quadriplegic. Is that right? Did I get the right word? Yeah.
Yeah.
Learning that he doesn't want to kill himself after all because Angelina Jolie smells good.
Yeah. I mean, if Angelina Jolie was interested in me, I'd cancel all plans to kill myself.
Yeah. Give yourself at least a week. See where it goes. We'll go on a week-to-week basis.
Let it ruminate.
All right. So let's start with the rotten quotes. We have Stephen Boone from City Search, who says, "The Bone Collector blows its budget on helicopters, fleets of cop cars, gory effects, and the charisma of Denzel Washington to bring this pointless hack work to theaters."
I take umbrage with blows its budget because all the effects were like pretty much practical, except for that CG rat. So I thought it was cool.
I mean, in the episode, you actually singled out that helicopter shot.
I did. Yeah.
You're like, "There's half the budget." Hack work. I mean, I don't know. I think that if this is hack work, then most thrillers in the 90s are hack work.
Yes, I can't remember how much of it got cut for just our patrons, but we have an extensive conversation on this genre of film from the mid to late 90s, and specifically how they all like had the same poster and all kind of just had the same elements. You know, if it wasn't Angelina Jolie, it was Ashley Judd or somebody like that.
If it wasn't Denzel, it was Morgan Freeman.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, as we have chronicled and come to realize, people were like way more critical of films like this back in the time. Contemporary reviews were way more critical of movies like this. But you know, if you just want fucking glory or Girl Interrupted, well, as we talked about, Girl Interrupted came out after, but you know what I mean? If you're looking for like your art house Denzel and Angelina Jolie film, this ain't it. But like we also talk about, yeah, it's you can find that elsewhere. It's cool that they made a movie like this together.
Yeah. Next, Glenn Whipp from Los Angeles Daily News says, "You've got a film that leaves you with a sick feeling in your stomach, and it has nothing to do with all the severed bones and fingers you've had to digest." If the bones and the fingers didn't make him sick, what is he talking about?
I don't know. The story's so saccharine or some shit.
He was disgusted by
he was romance. So mad that Denzel didn't actually do it in the end that he decided he wanted to live.
the lack of commitment on Denzel's self-flagellation. And maybe he was just disgusted that Bobby Cannavale didn't
have a bigger part.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say he didn't stick with it. You know, if you're Angelina Jolie's non-serious relationship, that's better than not being Angelina Jolie's anything. So that's disgusting. All right. Michael DeQuina from the Movie Report says the filmmakers forgot to satisfactorily conceal the identity of the homicidal title character. I don't know. You were.
I didn't catch
fooled. It. Yeah, you were surprised.
It's the flutes in Super Mario Brothers 3, where if you get the flutes early on, you can beat the game in like 20 minutes. And it's like, yeah, it's not the point, but it's also kind of like a cool thing of like, if you're paying close enough attention, you're kind of rewarded for it.
Yeah. And I think that not everybody, if all you do is watch thrillers, then you probably trained yourself to just suspect everybody and pick out the person that's going to be the killer. And then when it's right, you're like, oh, it's so obvious. But for people that go to the movies once a year, once every couple years, they were probably just blown away.
You also got to remember, like, this was so people entering a movie late got so bad that an entire franchise of movie theaters had to implement a rule that if you're late, you can't go into the movie. And so this is long before that. So there was like a shit ton of people that weren't even in there for the opening credits. So
finally, Tom Block from culturevulture.net, he simply says, "What is Denzel Washington doing in trash like this?"
Feels like a good time to call out that the movie made $150 million.
So that's what he's doing. He's
yes,
bringing home the bacon. Do you think? Okay, so somebody like this dude, like, what does he? If this is trash, how does he feel about other Denzel movies? Like, do you think that is this the bottom of the barrel?
Need to find this dude and talk to him about the Book of Eli, because as true dedicated fans of the Contrarians know, that's a movie that I almost like hold a grudge against. So there's that. Safe House, Unstoppable, but more like close to when this came out. I don't know. What would have been Fallen?
No. I mean, I think that you mentioned Glory earlier, and this guy seems like somebody who wanted Denzel to do the single tear every time. And so he
wants Glory, Malcolm X, and Philadelphia every time.
The trifecta.
No wavering off the beaten path.
Please do not, don't sell out. Don't just do crowd pleasers. Well, those are the quotes. Alex, before we move on to trivia, there's lots of options for the Josh Gad role here. Where do we put Josh Gad? We're going to make him the comic relief? Is he going to replace Luis Guzman? Or is Luis Guzman irreplaceable?
Well, first and foremost, yes. And then two, that would seem like too obvious of a move. Honestly, I would kind of retool the cast to make a lot of them a little bit younger or more in his age range. Uh-huh. And then I would have Josh Gad as the Michael Rooker character, the captain.
Oh, wow.
Because I think that he could take that character in a different place of not necessarily being like, overly mean or terse, but kind of creepy and suspicious. You would definitely be of him, because in the end, spoiler, the captain doesn't do it, but we think he's definitely like a prime suspect,
right?
So I could see Josh Gad being like someone we suspect, and then at the end, he's killed off fairly easily.
Would it be too obvious if we cast Josh Gad as the killer?
Yes.
Too much. But maybe Josh Gad back then, Josh Gad in late 90s. You just like,
we've been like a child, but
now, Alex, give us some trivia so we can close this down.
Directed by Philip Noyce, who has appeared with us here on the Contrarians before, with Sliver, of course, and also directed Salt several years later that we talk about a little bit in the episode. Seems like Angelina Jolie just kind of had to be like, I owe you a favor for putting me in my first big, blockbuster film. But The Bone Collector was released on November 5th of 1999. Fittingly, with Angelina Jolie, Girl Interrupted would be out the next month, and she went on to win an Academy Award for that. The screenplay written by Jeremy Iacone. This, of course, based on the book The Bone Collector by Jeffrey Deaver. Budget of a little under $50 million for a box office return, as I mentioned, of $150 million. Eventually led to a television show, as we discussed a little bit in the episode. But the critics, were not smitten with it. 28%. Roger Ebert gave the film a mixed 2-star review out of a possible 4. He praised the performances by the lead supporting actors, but deplored the plot's utter absurdity and the writing. The movie is a peculiar experience to sit through because the quality of acting is so much better than the material deserves. Philip Noyce is not a big fan of his work on the film. In the wake of Seven, every studio wanted a copycat serial killer film on their books. He felt that he was just part of the assembly line, signing on to this film knowing full well he would never be able to match David Fincher's achievement, which, again, that's a fair outlook to have from the beginning, but that doesn't mean you can't put your own spin on it. And this is by no means a movie that, like, if this isn't something someone should be ashamed of. I would hope he's not, like, particularly thrilled about Sliver, but
that's the one where he was not part of the machinery. He was just, look, this is from my heart. This is I'm on a tour here.
In Jeffrey Deaver's novel, Amelia Donaghy, Angelina Jolie, was named Amelia Sachs. The filmmakers changed it because, quote, it sounded too much like sex, end quote. I did mention this in the episode, but I thought this was really fucking cool. To confuse the audience as increased tension, Michael Rooker actually played the mass killer in several scenes. So you get those eyes and, kind of remember them that way. That's I feel a nice touch there. In the book, the live-in nurse for our main character, what's his name? I always forget. Lincoln Rhyme. Mm-hmm. The live-in nurse was a male, and so they changed that character for this to Thelma for Queen Latifah, which, she doesn't get the Anne credit in here, but this would have been kind of a pretty early acting credit for her. And also, like, I don't know, for what it is, kind of a dumb studio, mystery murder thriller. I think her character and her presence kind of brings an interesting touch to it.
She brings charisma to a part that didn't need it. You know what I mean? Like, it's such a background character that you could just have anyone play it, and it doesn't really change the story much. But she's there, and she makes it count. And and then when she meets her final fate, then it actually shocks you. That's Queen Latifah.
You can't do that, man. And finally, in the wake of Titanic, everyone's trying to do crazy shit. When Amelia jumps into the river to rescue the old man and his granddaughter, she was actually jumping into a giant, like, set, like this heated pool that they use vegetable dye to give the water the appearance of what river is that? Is it the Hudson River?
The Hudson, I guess.
Yeah. That nasty green sludge that they swim through.
And James Cameron, he attended the pre-screening. Okay, like that, but 3 hours.
He was in his little submarine, like, underwater. So again, that's the type of shit I love. This fucking silly movie had a day that was spent in this big, like, tank on set somewhere that Angelina Jolie had to jump into, and some PA just had, like, a big industrial sized barrel of just vegetable dye. And Philip Noyce is there. More.
They're like, cut. Go fish, Angelina again.
But that's kind of setting the table with a little bit of a trivia for the Bone Collector, and again, just a reminder of how things worked, because I really can't seem to stress enough that this movie made $150 million.
And it was not based on a comic book; it was based on a book.
That's right.
And Angelina Jolie wasn't even the star that she is now, and it's under 2 hours. So, all right. Well, that's the Bone Collector. We have a full episode, 2 parts as usual. Contrarians Corner will be really nice about the movie, and then Real Talk, where we'll just be real about the movie. You can tell we didn't hate it, so it'll be pleasant. Coming up next,
easy episode.
Yes, yeah. It was easy watch, easy episode. We don't get worked up about anything. It's not even like we're wondering why Carrie Coon is in the movie or anything. No, it's just coming up next. Cameron Diaz makes her triumphant return to the Contrarians with Being John Malkovich, a Criterion title. I'll be watching it on my Criterion. Alex will have to figure out what he's doing. Just buy it off Criterion, Alex. You can get it in time.
It's not July or November, so
it was just December. If only we had planned this. But that's it. Thank you for checking out this video. Thank you for checking out the podcast, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Bye, all. Take care.